Hello, everybody, and just wanted to come on and do a Tao of the Day with you. This is Martin John, and the Tao Te Ching is at the center of Tao of the Day, of course. I mean, hence the name. And it is an ancient text written about 300 BCE, and it's full of enigmatic wisdom and insight on how we can live a more reasonable life. When we talk about living a reasonable life, we talk about living in a way that doesn't ask others or other things, other people, other animals, other the weather, whatever, to change for us to be happy, for us to be content. We are as we are, and that's perfect. Now, how can we reasonably do that without getting in the way of ourselves and others? You are perfect as you are. You are. I read a verse the other day that said, "You are." Oh, what's the word that I'm looking for? You are. You know, Jesus. Do you think you can make the world a better place? Um, Interesting. I can't think of the word that I'm looking for. Yeah, it's in 29. Make the world a better you. Do you think you can make the world a better place? How arrogant you must be. It is sacred. That's the word I've been looking for. You are sacred as you are. And so the feelings that you have are sacred. And the things that you do, which translate into who you are going to become, is sacred. The interesting thing, I'm just thinking about this now, is when we talk about things like, when someone is an addict and then they recognize they're an addict and they struggle with addiction from that point forward. Um, it's real important for us to recognize this idea that you're going to do it until you don't. Whether it's addiction, whether it's action in your life right now, I am facing something that I'm going to do until I don't. And it hurt for a while because doing it made me feel less than. But then when I recognized, well, I'm going to continue doing this until I don't, it doesn't become something that's out of reach. It's something that is within reach. And speaking, that is partially speaking my truth, right? Like so. And there's a lot involved in that because not only is speaking my truth something that sometimes can be difficult, especially if my truth hurts another person, but that's a story because it's not going to hurt another person, right? I am going to imagine it's going to hurt another person, and if it hurts another person, I feel like I might be ostracized or pushed outside. So when we look at the big picture of things, what we can ultimately start focusing on is this idea that I'm going to do it until I don't. I'm going to do this thing, and it's okay. So it's okay for me to do that, but I have to recognize that I'm learning along the way, and I have to be kind to myself while that is happening, so that I don't get complacent and I say, okay, I want to change this. I do want to change this. I want to change how I interact. But I'm not upset with the way it is. The way it is the way it is. And there's a second part of me that is someone who enjoys being a man of his word. So when I say something, even if I said it like, "Oh, I'm gonna participate in your project." Okay, I will participate in your project, but the only reason I'm participating in your project is because I'm afraid that not participating in your project will get me kicked out of future projects. Well, I got to become okay with that and learn how to deal with that. And I'm a man of my word, and this is an identity thing. And so that's something that I can break as well. And maybe as I kind of traverse this experience, I can continue to grow, continue to change, no longer fearing those things, and allow myself to not hold on to an old identity, but reach out into the new identity that I'm going to become. It's easy to come onto social apps or speak publicly and be like, I am a complete person, and I don't have trouble, or just be a know-it-all and say, I know, I know, I know, but to come up and say, there's something that I'm struggling with. And even if what I am struggling with is not um, the same thing you are, or not the same thing that other people would struggle with, because I wouldn't say that I struggle with this, but for me, it is a struggle. It is a challenge, right? For me, in my place, it is a challenge. Now, the challenges you may face may be different or greater or worse or whatever, but I face these things and they're mine and they can't be compared. There is no measuring. This is just what I'm going through. And if somebody were to hear me talk about this, they might say, well, that's nothing. Like that's the same, that's the argument we get in when we're recovering from. And if you guys have heard me speak before, you know I talk about recovering too. And when we talk about recovering from, there's a measurement. It's like, at least you're not doing crack. Well, sure. I did an interview with someone, Joe Lawson, years and years ago, for my Recover Yourself podcast, and we talked about his ice cream addiction. You know, it would be like 3 for $5 pints. He would buy those pints, put them in the freezer, and then one day he would eat a whole pint of ice cream. Then the next day he might eat another pint of ice cream. And then, well, he's only got one more, so the next day he eats another pint. Now, he can go to his, support group and say, hey, this is troublesome. I don't like that I'm going through this. And the problem with the support group is that there's so many different people at different levels in it that when you talk about that, you're not going to get people taking you as seriously as maybe they should. Because that ice cream addiction is no worse than a crack addiction. It's just different because you're in a different place. You're not struggling with crack, you're struggling with ice cream. That struggle is real no matter which. And sugar has been proven to be a stronger um, addiction, a stronger drug to quit than many other drugs. So, when he's going through that, of course, if he's in a group of people who are, struggling with alcohol or drugs and stuff, they're going to say, oh, well, at least you're not struggling with this. But it's all the same. It's just about where you are. Joe happens to be in a place where, that the illicit drugs, the ones that are illegal, aren't a problem. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't still have something that he needs to look at, as something that needs to be a challenge. And so when we look at all of these things in the Tao, when you pick a number, it's important for us to look at it from where you are. It's important for us to look at it from your perspective. I may take a step back and generalize it and talk about how some of the theories are in there. But really, this is about you saying, this affects me, or this reminds me of, and this is where I am. And when you get to say that, then you get to own this moment for yourself. You're not having a moment with me. You never have a moment with someone else. I'm having a moment and you're having a moment. Those are two totally different moments. And when we can appreciate that we're each having different moments, then it can be said that we are we're really seeing some truth, because what I'm feeling and what you're feeling are not connected. Okay, so I am going to read number 74. Don't cut yourself today. And the reason I'm reading 74 is because I think that's one of the only ones that I haven't written notes for. And I called a self-publishing place yesterday, and so I'm moving things forward. And I am looking forward to publishing this um, this version of the Tao, so that you can buy it and you can check it out. I can make a little money. It's always nice. But yes, so don't cut yourself. People are not naturally afraid to die. That is what we are born to do. Fear of death is important if you want to rule over the people. However, you must artificially instill that fear into their hearts. To accomplish this, you kill as an example to control the masses. Since the beginning of time, there has been one executioner. Trying to take its place will lead to nothing good. As a novice with a master carpenter's tools, you're going to cut yourself. So now this verse talks about death and talks about being an executioner. That is the words that it uses. But for me, I'm looking at this wanting to appease others. In my experience of wanting to appease others or wanting to not get in trouble probably is a better um, use of that of this moment to express myself, right? Like, I don't want to get in trouble because getting in trouble sucks, right? Getting in trouble has all of these implications, or you're going to be left behind, you're not going to be loved, and all of these things. So I'm going to look at this from that perspective, because I said earlier, like, when you look at a number, you have to look at it from where you're at. So people are not naturally afraid to die. That is what they are born to do. Well, I have a fear of getting in trouble. So let's say people are not naturally afraid to get in trouble. Is it what we're born to do? Not be afraid? Like, really, that is, like, it is true that that fear has to be instilled. So if we just generalize, people are not naturally afraid to get in trouble. And so it's unnatural for me to be afraid to be in trouble, to be afraid of trouble. Like, what the hell is trouble? This moment is this moment, and it is perfect. And so what the hell is trouble in the first place? Well, fear. Now, if I get rid of death, um, and I replace it, fear of getting in trouble, because this is what I'm experiencing, is important if you want to rule over people, right? To instill fear in people is important if you want to make them obedient. To give them fear through reward and punishment, in any other way that you can instill fear upon somebody, you know it is important. If you want to rule over people, you have to get them to be afraid, because if they're afraid, then they're more easy to control. However, you must artificially instill this fear into their hearts. To accomplish this, in the words that it says, is to accomplish this, you kill as an example to control the masses. You do the thing, you show these people that you want to control over. And myself, as a child, my mom would get mad at my sister for doing something, and while she was mad, she would yell at me for not having done something, or having done something, or left something out, or whatever, to instill that fear, to be like, and you too. And that's how I learned. That's how it was instilled into my heart. Into my heart, I had fear, because she wanted to make sure that I was easy to control. And that's fine. She's not wrong for doing that, right? She doesn't want me to be me. She wants me to be easy to control. Now, that doesn't mean that that's her wish. If you were to ask her cognitively, what do you want most for your child? I want them to be happy. Okay, well, everything that makes them happy makes you upset. So now, how do you treat that situation? She would say, well, I want to make sure that he's doing these things because of the fears that I have, that were artificially instilled in her heart. So she wants to make sure that I'm easily to control, and the fears that she holds, which were artificially instilled in her heart, she will try and instill in mine, and they won't be equal, because I am having my own experience while she is having hers, and they have nothing to do with one another. So how I translate what she does is going to be different, right? So fear is always brought into the hearts of people artificially. Now, your life is going to unfold how it's going to unfold, and Tao is a part of all of that. Now, as we move into the final 4 lines of this verse, it states, since the beginning of time, there has been one executioner. Trying to take his place, trying to take its place will lead to nothing good. As a novice with the um, as a novice with a master carpenter's tools, you're going to cut yourself. See, this is an important line, and it's really important to understand like the depth and complexity of Tao and of life and how we interact. So we're going to step out of the role of death and look at this as like my fear of getting in trouble, if we're going to look at it that way. Since the beginning of time, there has been one, it says here, executioner, but we could say one teacher. We could say there has been one um, lesson maker. We could say that there is one disseminator of lessons, or any sort of things, right? Anything that, like, the executioner is just the person who kills someone else. So we could look at this from the perspective of there's only one God or Tao or whatever, that, or Brahman, that brings about a thing that inspires one to go against their true nature. Tao will have me experience fear, even though fear isn't natural. You know, it'll have me experience fear so that I will grow, learn, have an experience, and process that experience as part of the evolution of consciousness on this planet. Because consciousness wants to grow, each individual wants to grow, the planet wants to grow, and in order to do that, I have to do my part and have an experience that elicits growth. Otherwise, there is no growth, right? So, as gravity is pulling me down, I am fighting it and trying to stand up. You fight entropy, and our experiences that we have are here so that we can remember to continue to fight entropy. Now, we could do that through surrender, or we can do that through force. Doing that through force is what it's talking about here, taking the master carpenter's tools, taking the executioner's place. The experiences that we have in our life, we don't want to avoid, we want to embrace and surrender to. And so we were talking earlier about my fear of getting in trouble. That was artificially instilled, and it's artificially instilled, and that is by design. It was artificially instilled. Now, because my mom wasn't in tune with what is the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. She was just doing what she did. So I accepted at some point in my conscious existence, maybe not within my body, I accepted that this was going to be the case. And since the beginning of time, there has been one disseminator of lessons, right? One executioner. Trying to take its place will lead to nothing good. So if you are saying, this is the proper way to raise a child, I'm going to go about it in a proper way, and I'm going to do all of these things, you're going to fuck it up. There is no proper way. There is the way that you do it and the way that it's done. Remember, when you try to do something, you're trying to do that from a specific frame of reference. And that frame of reference isn't the same frame of reference that your child has. And so it's important to be able to recognize that you are being inspired and to surrender to that inspiration. And if you do something you don't like, recognize that you don't like it. Of course, admit it to your child if that's something that you've done, but don't dwell on the fact that you fucked up, because that's your experience. Maybe your child won't remember. I know there are plenty of things your child remembers that you might not even remember. And I'm doing this because I'm talking about me as a child and all of these other things. So We're going to go ahead and bring Marcella on. It's been so long since I've talked to Marcella. Marcy, how are you doing?
Yeah. Hi.
How are you? It's been so long.
I know I missed you.
I missed you too. It's good to see you on social when I run across posts and stuff. And I'm always like, oh, I wonder how
Aw.
she's doing.
I do the same thing. So
Oh,
I actually have a client in half an hour and I said, I need to get coffee, but I need to check wisdom. I was here last night and I saw you and I got super excited. I said, "Oh my God, this is Providence."
Providence. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you have a client. That is beautiful. And I am sure they are in your very capable hands, and that is beautiful.
Oh yeah, my clients either love me or hate me and then they all end up loving me anyway.
Yeah. Love is the only answer.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Sting said it, right? Love is the
What's that?
seventh wave. Sting, he wrote a song about it. Love is the seventh wave.
Oh, I don't know that. I like Sting. I'm a fan,
I love him,
but
yeah.
I don't know that song.
It's a good one.
All right.
I was listening to what you were saying before, and um, I don't like the word resonate so much, but I will say it hit home very deep.
Mm,
Yeah. I not consistently anymore, but I beat myself up about the mistakes I made with my children.
mm,
And a lot of times I say, okay, I need to release this because I'm poisoning myself. I'm
right.
making myself feel bad, and the only thing I can do is make things better. So, yeah, it gave me food for thought this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, it's tough thing, I think. And I think parents, especially in our society right now, we're given a lot of, it's like these are the right ways of doing things, these are the wrong way. Don't do this. This is what our study has shown, that if you do this, then this happens. And it's like, well, you know, those studies didn't show that 70 years ago, because it wasn't in our consciousness. It wasn't even thought of as wrong or whatever. And there's a slow evolution always happening, and we're a part of that. And by us feeling bad, that's part of the evolution. But beating yourself up stagnates the ability for that to kind of get outside of you and
Mhm.
continue to change others. And don't forget, like, your children are living lives too. This is something that they agreed to in another universe. That doesn't mean you don't apologize for your misgivings and all of that, but they are prepared to handle this.
Correct.
Yeah, and they are prepared
Mm.
to handle so much more than we give them credit for so often.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at all of mine. My son's moving out finally, and people always said, "Oh, he won't be able to live on his own." He's 33. He can live on his own.
Yeah, yeah,
He's a grown man. It's just that he's taken care of all of us, this family, since he was 11. That's 22 years.
yeah.
And now it's time for him to take care of him and allow us to take care of him.
Right. And that
Yeah.
may take a long time, like that's kind of some things that I'm going through right now, where it's like, you know, I I am such a giver at times. I am such a teammate at times that I don't take care of myself. And that's something that I'm really recognizing, and I'm trying to vocalize more and more, because I will find myself agreeing with other people before I've even checked in with myself. I'll agree to do a project with somebody just because they asked, not because I want to. And then now I'm just kind of like, oh, is that something I want to do? And really, it's a shock how many places that I am doing that. And it's such a good thing to be able to continue to evolve and continue to be aware of what's going on and why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Minute.
You broke up there.
It went so
Hmm.
silent here for a moment.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's beautiful, and congratulations to him. and you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Do you have a
3
number for
down,
me
2 to
today? I
go.
know you. I know you wanted to get coffee, and you have a client, so I don't keep you too long.
How
But
about you pick one for me?
you
It's
want me
been a
to
long
pick?
time.
Okay. I'm gonna sit down quietly. I'm gonna kind of tap in. Oh, there you are. 37.
Oh my god.
What's that?
Close. I said he's gonna pick 27.
Oh,
But let's go with 37.
yeah, 37. So inspired action is the title of 37. Tao never does anything, yet inspires everything to do. When beings maintain the action of Tao, they spontaneously transform from within. When that transformation acquires a name or an identity, external forces inspire further actions from desire. Actions without identity are free from external goals. Without desire, honoring stillness, all things are at peace. In talking about your son, I think that that's really beautiful.
Um,
It's go on.
no, you're right. I was thinking that. I mean, it's not just him. I've got others. I've got my daughter in Chicago. I've got my daughter
You have a
who's
daughter
married
in
with.
Chicago.
I do.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
If she ever needs anything, have her give me a call.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah, because I'm
We're
in the
going to
area. I mean,
see her in
I was born and
July.
raised. I was born and raised in Chicago. I'm currently living
Mhm.
in Northwest Indiana, but I'm 30 minutes away.
We'll be there in July to spend
Oh,
a long weekend with her. So I'll let you know.
well, you definitely let me know. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be
this
nice.
this Chicago's my home. That's everything. Like it's.
I spent time there when I was a little girl. I had an uncle who lived there,
Mm,
and my mom went to we all went to stay with him for a while.
oh,
Yeah.
well, yeah, we'll definitely.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, it would be.
But you're right. It's like, when it was time for them to move on, I kind of just said, "Okay." When my son told me he was moving out, I said, "Okay." I didn't the only thoughts in my head were that this was right for them.
Yeah.
Um, I have a girl up at college too, and we just discussed her future plans, and it broke my heart that she wants to leave the state. And
Mm,
I said, "Okay."
yeah.
That was all I could say. "Okay." And I said, "And this will always be your home."
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting as this one ends. It's like without desire,
mhm,
honoring stillness, all things are at peace. But this starts in this place of Tao never does anything, yet inspires everything to do. See, when I think about you and your children, you're not doing the things for your children. You're not telling them what to do. You're keeping still and
mhm,
you're inspiring within them desires. You're inspiring them to be themselves through
mhm,
example and through your living. And they are being inspired to do things. And those things that they're doing may on in the manifestation look like they're taking them further from you, but they are, like this. When beings maintain the action of the Tao, they spontaneously transform from within. So when they maintain the actions that you have inspired within them, they continue to transform into who they are
okay.
without them having to appease you or to do things for you.
So, I don't know if we've ever talked about Riley, who is transgender.
Mm,
Yeah, she's graduating college in May, and she will be home right around Mother's Day, and she's turning 25 in June. And we talk a lot about her journey.
Yeah.
And though though it is hers, it's mine too. And she's not been able to understand that yet. And I said, "Well, I'm holding your hand the whole time, all the way, from the first step up until now and going forward. And I'm not I'm not taking it away from you. I am walking with you.
Hmm.
And I have my own journey as her mother.
Correct.
So there are things there that we both need to understand about each other. Like what she does is to benefit her and to make her feel more herself. And what I do is to honor that and just be a loving parent. And she's very lucky. We tell her this all the time, not to rub her nose in it, but we hear about all these children whose parents hurt them or abandon them because of being trans.
Hmm.
And her father and I haven't been together for 20 years, Martin John, but we support her.
Beautiful.
We stand together in supporting her. So we it's I want to say it's unselfish, but it's not because I get something out of it.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
still just kind of hang back. I am holding her hand, but I'm hanging back.
Right. Yeah. You are just like, you're part of that inspiration of her life. And
Right.
to allow that transformation to take place without identifying it and saying, well, this is what it is. And so this is what I expect that transformation to look like. And you don't
Right.
have to, you can just allow it to ebb and flow and do what it's going to do without it being identified, without it being something concrete. It can just exist as the transformation that will take place. And every day, as that transformation continues to solidify into something concrete, you allow it to be what it is without a preconceived idea.
Well, we Luna and I ran into someone Monday, and it's an old family friend, someone who worked for my in-laws. And he asked me how Riley was, but he used their dead name. And I said, "Well, it's Riley now." And he says, "Oh." And, "Well, how's he doing?" I said, "She's great." And he said, "Oh." And then he says, "Well, it's been a long time." And I said, "Yes." And then it became awkward and we left. And Luna says, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, it was a little awkward." And she says, "I'm trying to normalize this. It shouldn't be awkward. We should be able to say things exactly the way you did, Mom, and it not be awkward."
Right. It can be awkward for them, but when it
Mm-hmm.
becomes awkward for us, we just have to recognize that we need to continue doing work too. And just like Luna said, I'm just trying to normalize it because it's work. It's work to normalize when other people have that energy and then we take it on. And then we have to continue to look at what is inspiring us to have those experiences or to be connected to that because those are lessons for us. when
Exactly.
we
Wow.
when we feel that, that's a lesson for us. It's not a place that, oh, I've been victimized. It's a place where, nope, this is my lesson. What am I here to learn? And if we don't know the lesson right away, well, we'll definitely stumble upon it again sometime soon. So let's just keep digging and move on with our lunch, right? Like whatever it
That's
is.
it. Well, I didn't feel awkward. I felt awkward that he felt awkward. It's almost like I channeled it. You know what I mean?
Right. And that is your experience.
Yeah. So I just
Regardless of his, your experience is, I felt awkward in this moment because of this, right? Whatever.
right.
And it's not about Riley. It's not about that.
Oh no.
It's about you don't know. Now I'm telling you, and you're having feelings about that.
Yeah.
This is what's happening within me. Like I am observing this.
Right.
It's
I still have problems with that being neurodivergent. So
No,
It's a
right, right, right.
challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just happened.
But that's part of the experience, you know. Like
Right.
even the neurodivergency is part of that.
Oh, I'm timing out. I love you, Martin John. I'm so happy I got to speak to you today.
Me as well. Good luck with your client. Have a great day. My
You
best to all your kids. Oh, what a beautiful. It's always great to have Marcy on. Marcy, if you're still listening, even if not, I'm gonna read these last couple lines. Um, when transformation acquires a name or an identity, external forces inspire further actions from desire. See, those initial actions, those are all coming from like an empty, no destination, no identity, no like, oh, this is what I'm feeling. This is just real. This is who I am. When that transformation acquires a name or an identity, once it has an identity, it's very often that that identity can start taking control and instilling itself on the actions we take. You know, once I decide, oh, you know, I just happen to be making art all the time. That's great. Okay. Well, then once I say I'm an artist, now it's like now my actions are, well, I got to go get a show and I got to have a body of work and I got to have an artist statement and I got to have all of these things. All of the actions around that are now external forces inspire further actions from desire. There's a desire to identify as that which I identified, right? I remember, not that this is for everybody, but I remember I had a conversation. I'm a huge supporter of trans individuals, and it was a goal of mine in the Recover Yourself podcast to have every 10 episodes, I think it was, I would have like two trans people to be able to discuss transformation and recovery to oneself. Um, so and I'm going to be working with Lona Curry, a trans man, on project, and so there's all sorts of stuff as it relates to trans. But this is, you know, when we start looking at trans the trans experience, you know, when the transformation acquires a name, one says, okay, I am this gender, I am that gender. You know, a friend of mine once said, choose your gender however you want, but don't identify with any of it, because it is in the identifying that we start. I am a trans man in full transition, dot, dot, dot. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. No, I'll tell them you're a trans man, that's fine. But I'm not going to tell them to what degree you are transitioning, because I don't want you, and I don't want to package anybody that way. I never tell anybody what I have down my pants, and I don't think he should either. You know, and it was, and that, and he wanted to say those things, and I believe it came from a really good place. He wanted to say those things because his actions acquired a name, and the name was transgender. And because it acquired a name, he felt like he needed to embrace a certain level of trans. And that's fine if he did, but he's not doing it for other people. He would be doing it for himself. And I wanted to make sure that he understood that, and that I wasn't party to making him or putting him in a position to express something that is really, the only person that matters about that is you. Now I know we're moving into a new world of social media and stuff where, you know, it's all up for grabs, and you know, if it doesn't happen on there, it doesn't matter, and then, you know, you're, but it's like quietly going about your business is a really great thing. And I think, and it's something that's really helped me along the way. Not that everyone has to do that, but um, I also don't have to, engage in ways that I'm uncomfortable. That doesn't mean that, not uncomfortable, that's not right. Like, I want to engage, and I want to, like, I call trans people by their preferred pronouns, and I, you know, support trans rights and trans people, and gay trans marriage. I even support trans people in sports. Like, I don't have any problems with any of this. But it's important to understand that, like, um, when a transformation acquires a name, external forces can buoy that transformation. And when that happens, it might not be completely you, because there are millions of ways to do it, but we might only know about six of them. And so it's like, well, if you're trans, then you have to fit into the six selection boxes that I have made in my mind. And we don't even have to talk about trans people. This could be just transformation in you. Like, what if, like, like, you're real ambitious, and then you're like, well, I'm type A. Well, that's a transformation that's acquired a name. I'm type A person, and this is what type A people do. And you just chalk it up to bullshit. And you find yourself in this place of putting yourself in a box. Now, my friend who is like, pick your gender how you want, but don't identify with it, also said society wants to put you in a box. You know, Parents want to put you, want to raise you in a way that makes you easy to control. No, they don't want to do that to make it hard on you to be who you are, but it happens that that's what takes place. Right? All of these things, everything we do, anytime we get to spontaneously be who we are, Tao doesn't do anything, but inspires us to do that. That thing that we did is here to teach us something. That lesson gets us to spontaneously transform from within. Once we transform from within, we might own that transformation. Say, I did this, and then become a coach. Well, that transformation then acquired a name. Now you're a transformational coach, and you go out and you identify as a coach, and now you do all the things coach does, and you are just like everybody else. Because once that transformation acquires a name, external forces, desires, start to creep in and then inspire the actions that you take from that point forward. Actions without identity. If you can get rid of your identity and still act, which is what we all do at some point. That's the doing nothing. Oh, it's nothing. I'm doing this thing and I'm not even thinking about it. This morning I went out and chopped down a bunch of trees and things, and it's like, well, that's just what I did. Is it the right thing to do? Is it the wrong thing to do? Should I have done it? Should I not have done it? Those questions aren't even in the picture. All I do is what is inspired within me from now. Actions without identity are free from external goals. There's no external goal here. I mean, I do have external goal for my yard, so cutting down trees, there is a goal. But if that goal was have this beautiful garden that looks like this, then I'm landscaping. Where today I was just kind of like going through and chopping things up and moving things around and stuff. I don't want a beautiful yard. I want a yard. Or I mean, I have a yard, I suppose, but without desire, honoring stillness, all things are at peace. So when I'm done doing the thing that I'm doing, I become still. And when I become still, I'm able to be here, be present with who I am, as I am. Felicia, it has been a while since we've spoken as well. Today's great. I have all these.
Love it. I
Hey, how's
just
it
kind of
going?
tuned in. It's going good. It's going good. I love what you're saying. The
Oh,
action without identity. You
yes.
know, you transform. And when you, oh, and you do this and you transform, and I saw it kind of like one of those, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's spiral gyro. It's not spiral gyro, but it's this thing we used to play with this sand thing, and soon as you grab a hold of something in this game we used to have back in the day, back in the day, it would become a different color, and then it would merge. And so when you said transform,
Mm.
I just saw the melding of this wisdom into usable form,
Yeah.
and whatever form you find it in, it is not necessary to name it. It just
Right.
is.
It
It
just
just
is.
is,
And
and I
that's
love.
the thing that we get wrong today, because and this isn't wrong. We are very frontal lobe cognitive people, right?
Yeah,
That's how we've evolved, and we needed logic in order to get to the next place of evolution, and I get that and I respect
right.
that. But we are smarter than that now,
Yes.
and we don't have to just be like, well, if you make art, you're an artist. So now you have
Right.
the name of an
Right.
artist, and now what does it mean to be an artist? Well, it means you got to write a statement. You can't tell somebody I'm an artist because their first question is, what gallery are you in? And it's like, well, fuck
Right.
off. I'm an artist. Like, I don't need all of your external validation to prove that.
Exactly. Exactly. I love it. I love it. I love it. I simply love it. And it leaves you that freedom.
Yes.
It just leaves you freedom. It leaves you free of what they call the attachments.
Right.
Okay, like you said, you're like, oh, I transformed, so now, hey, now I'm a coach. Oh, I transformed, now I'm a counselor. Oh, I
Yeah.
transformed, now I am. You know what? I am.
Damn right.
It's just, it's just all. I am what I am in this moment.
When I was a kid, Popeye was my, like
Yes,
if I were to say I had a
exactly.
hero, it would have been Popeye. That that like, he got it. He's like, look, I
Yes,
am
he
what I am, and
did.
that's all that I am.
That's
And
all that I am.
and it's funny because like I look at that, and I look at, because I would have never said that I had a hero when I was a kid, but I do remember like really kind of digging on Popeye, and and
Right.
my diet since I got diagnosed with MS has been
Uh huh.
filled with greens.
Right.
And it's like he ate his spinach. He is who he is. Like, and those are the important
I
things
am.
that are part of me.
And that song is floating around in your head as
Yeah,
you're eating your greens, right? I'm
that's right.
strong to the finish because I
Yeah,
eat some spinach.
that's right.
You know, I
It's,
mean, we are strong to the finish is because it's who we are.
yeah,
And our strong looks different. Our strong looks different. It shows up differently
it has
than
to.
others. It
Yeah.
has to. It can't be the same. It
Mm-mm.
can't be a paper doll cut out. It just cannot be.
Right.
It just cannot be. And so I just love this. Go ahead and just transform. You don't even have to use the word transform.
That's
Just
right.
don't, just go ahead and move into the thing that you're moving into. Move in.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm a house. No, don't, you're not a house. Move into the house.
Right. It's like, this is, yeah, that's the whole thing. Everyone's like, this is my identity, and as this identity, I have to do these things. It's like, bitch, shut up. Like, if you stop naming that identity, then
Right.
you will continue to just change all the time, and you will just be who you
Exactly.
are, growing all the time. Every time you identify as something, you stop growing. You might continue to acquire that identity,
Right.
but you're not
Right.
growing.
Exactly. And I love what you said about just sitting after you've done the thing you did. Sit it, just be silent and
Yeah.
sit. sit in the midst of what you've done, you
Yeah.
know, sit and survey. You can survey and you can survey and not label it. But we've been taught and programmed to label things all the time. And so we end up stacking all our chips against ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
And then
and we build.
I I always look at it like, like it's interesting. And I'm not right or wrong about any of this, but it's just like I look at this as like, when we finish something and then we celebrate it. Well,
Yeah.
stop thinking, like maybe celebrating is good, but
Yeah.
maybe the other aspect of it where it's like you there is nothing to celebrate. You did a thing, good for you. Where are you now? Allow that. Maybe that stillness can be your celebration. Maybe you can allow the idea that you have just done something and now you are a different person.
Right.
Now you don't have to identify as a different person, but recognize that you
Right.
have changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and my coworker was sitting down yesterday after work, and we were just going, how do we even do all that stuff, raising kids? How do we even do this job? We get all the places that we had to go. Because if I had to think about all the stuff that I did with all four of my kids in the swing of my career and raising family, taking care of it, I said, look, I don't even know how I even did all that stuff. All I want to do is call it grace.
That's right.
I did, because I can't tell you I did this and this is why this happened. And then I flowed into, man, half the time I was thinking like, man, help me.
That's right. And this is one of the things that I always kind of look at is like so many people, not everybody, of course, but many, many people want to tell you why or how. But the thing is we
I
don't
don't
know
even know.
why and we don't know how. It just
Exactly.
happens. And if you are trying to identify the why and how, then what you're doing is trying to take credit or blame for something like it's not yours. Just
No.
because just because they're your kids doesn't mean that you did shit to raise them. You just woke up and did some shit, whatever that
Did
was.
some stuff. Did some stuff upside down, downside
Yeah,
up, sideways, in some kind of way. They
yeah,
still okay and they actually
that's
like
right,
you, you know.
right,
And then, I mean, I had that moment when my son got married. I was just so weepy. I was telling Lois, I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know. I mean, I'm giving my son away, and it's like he's not my son. He is,
right.
he is who he is. And why am I feeling weepy? Did I do enough? Did I do enough? Did I discipline him too hard?
Mm,
What did I do? I was tripping days after
yeah,
my son got married. Did I do enough? And it was like my son gave me a call a day before the wedding. Not a day, but about a couple of weeks before the wedding. Because I told him I wanted to be able to give him some money because it was my desire, right?
yeah,
And he says, you know what, Mom, I just want to tell you, I know you wanted to give me some money, but guess what? I said, we don't need anything. He said, as far as I'm concerned, you and Dad have done enough.
mm,
He says, I just want you to walk me down the aisle. I just want my dad in my wedding. I am happy. And it
yeah,
was so simple, right? I was still tripping. I was still tripping. I
yeah.
was like, oh, but I should have went and did that overtime,
That's right.
and
That's right.
and he's like, it's enough. It's okay, Mom. It's okay. And when he said it, and after the weeks that, it just sunk in, and I'm like, oh, look at my people.
Yeah.
He's his own person. They're their own couple. You know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like for you, they are a couple. For them, they are individuals. For you, they're individuals
Yes.
too. But each of them, like
Yes.
you and your son, even though like he's your son, you are not having the same experience. He is having
No,
his
I'm
own
having a
experience,
different.
learning his
I
own
mean,
shit, and you are as well.
yes, yes. And I was just thinking about all the hardness that we endured, and and how I had to be a little bit tougher with him.
Yeah.
And I just like, oh, I hope I wasn't too tough. I was up there crying a day before his wedding. I hope I wasn't too hard on you. It's just like, and he was like, Mom, I'm good.
Yeah. And and that's the thing, like we have to recognize that the transformation that you took did acquire a name of mom.
Yeah.
And mom in our society has a lot of it just opens yourself up to judgment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moms get it coming and going. If you don't
Yeah,
have
they
a
do.
career, if you don't raise
Yeah.
your child well enough, or if you're
Yeah.
not home enough, if you're not like
Yeah.
and the external
Yeah.
forces that come in from
Mhm.
from acquiring the name mom are
Yeah.
huge, and they inspire a lot of your actions from
Mhm.
a desire to be seen by those external forces as a good mother.
Mhm.
And that then gets you caught up in identifying.
Mm. Yeah. For
But if
sure.
your actions, right, like if you could let go of the mother identity completely,
Right.
actions without identity are free from external goals. Initially,
Mm.
your goals were I'm paraphrasing. I do not want to cause any disruption. This isn't what you did, but many people will look at their external goals as being a mother, as being seen as a good mother. Maybe by
Yeah.
your children, maybe by people that are observing you.
Mhm.
And that meant a lot in the 80s and 90s. That meant
Yeah.
something, right?
Right.
It was increasing that you couldn't just let your child go out. You couldn't just let, like there was helicopter parenting that was out there. There's all of this other stuff happening. Like you had to still look like a good mother. So you speak against things, you speak for things. All of that's coming from outside of you. But actions without identity. So now
Mhm.
you can let go of the identity of being a mother,
Exactly.
and you can
Exactly.
free yourself from external goals. Like if your son loses his job and gets divorced, you're you could still love him and allow him to stay with you, or do whatever needs to be done so you can support him, but you don't have to do that with the identity of being
Right.
mom. You don't have to hold that identity, because then when you talk to people, it's like, well, my son is doing this. Well, you could just say his name is doing this, and then be like, oh well,
Right.
he happens to be my son.
Right. 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 I love the way you're putting this. I don't
Yeah.
know. This is moving my heart. I'm feeling like
Yeah.
Spiral Gyro in the inside, creating
Yeah.
a new form. Were you doing down for today? I was just so into your talk. Oh
Yes,
my
this is
gosh.
Dow of the day, but this is number 37
This is 37.
Marcy. Yeah, this is what Marcy picked, or Marcy actually asked me to pick this number, and I did for her. So, if you want and you have time to come back up, we can do a number. But
Okay.
because we were continuing to read on 37,
Well,
it's
I
fine
love
either way.
it, but you know what? The number 15 is on my in my register. And if I
Okay.
go down and I don't come back up, know that I'm listening because I'm en
All right.
route
All
somewhere.
right.
I love you, John. Thank you
I
so
love
much.
you. Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and read 15 for you. All right. So number 15 is entitled Ancient Tao. The ancient master's ability to comprehend the mystery was so profound and subtle that they were misunderstood. One could only describe how they must have appeared. Careful as someone hearing the ice crack midway through crossing a lake. Observant as someone surrounded by toxic threats. Curious as a guest in awe of her host. Unpretentious as a felled branch in a wood. Vacant as someone staring off into space. Dull as a man has nothing to boast about. Can you be still, adding nothing until the mud settles and it gives you the opportunity to see clearly? Can you be still until, on its own accord, the next action presents itself to you, the master has no need for herself. She doesn't seek or expect attention. Not needing to appease herself, she has no requests. So the stillness in this is really strong for what Felicia and I were talking about. I'm going to reread this whole thing because she can't come back up. But I'm going to reread this whole thing. I'm going to take breaks. I'm going to talk about some things that Felicia and I were talking about for the last one. And I'm going to just kind of superimpose some of those things on here so that we can kind of get a better idea of how this might kind of all connect around. The ancient masters' ability to comprehend the mystery was so profound and subtle they were often misunderstood. One could only describe how they must have appeared. This is the thing, when we talk about being a mother, it's profound and subtle. When we talk about doing things with or for your children, or doing things at all, while being a quote unquote mother, is it can be seen from a certain perspective. In traditional communities, what ends up happening is children just are with the parents. The parents aren't doing things for children. Half of the house that they live in is not covered in toys or things for the child. The child is in a world of adults. And in the mind of the child, they are a child and they are learning. So when we talk about, as we go through this one, we have to realize that ancient masters here could just be people with the ability to comprehend the mystery. There's a mystery to growing up, and there's a mystery to being a mother. But you can't understand their decisions. I mean, you can describe their decisions if they are totally caught up in the manifestation and just trying to play a role, just simply trying to be accepted by the people around them, or they, like what we were talking about earlier, that idea of um, being caught up in that moment in the identity. So here it's like we can only describe how they must have appeared because it's so subtle. So I can say what a parent did without knowing why, without knowing the deep why. As I mentioned earlier when we were talking, the why and the how, those are mysteries. Those are the actual mysteries, but we try so firmly to attach to them. We try and say, this is why, this is how. That's not true. It's never been true. So then we go through the sextet of how they must have appeared. And it's important to recognize these and to just visualize what each one expresses. And I'm going to pause after I read each one so that you can, like, what does that look like? What if I was in a conversation and this experience happened? Careful as someone hearing ice crack midway through crossing a lake. This isn't a stream. This isn't something small. You are halfway through crossing an entire lake. You're probably at its deepest depths. And if you were to fall through, you probably wouldn't be able to get back up on the ice. And it's cold. So, how careful do you have to be when you hear that crack? Every step, you feel every movement in your body, every muscle. You are aware of what's going on. Like, imagine if you could take, in this moment, get to that deep of awareness. Observant to someone surrounded by toxic threats. You walk into a room with a bunch of people that you know, but you haven't spoken to in years. And the reason is because they be crazy. They're toxic threats. Now, if you're in a room surrounded by toxic threats, you are going to be observant of what is happening around you. How observant would you have to be if you were in that room? You are going to take in the whole scene. You're going to listen. You're going to be very aware. You're going to be very clear. You are not going to engage, but you will observe. You will observe because those threats can turn on you at any moment. And so you stay there and you become observant. This is what the ancient masters were like. This is how they looked when they interacted with people. Curious as a guest in awe of her host. Imagine being a host to somebody, being in their home, and you're in awe of their home and their food and their graciousness. You are just, your heart is open and you speak from it with love and kindness. Unpretentious as a felled branch in a wood. How many hikes have you been on and noticed every branch? No, you just like, it's nothing. Like there's just another branch and you step over it and you move on. So people can pass you up. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not embracing your ego to be praised. Like all of those stories about like, well, if you're not getting paid enough, go find a place that's going to pay you more. Yes, I agree that that happens. Like if you go to the subway and you play a violin, and then you go to the symphony and you play a violin, you're going to get paid two different amounts. That's true. And I'm trying, but one of them, they both have identity. One of them, um, well, they both have identity. One has an identity of someone who plays in the subway. One has an identity of someone who plays in the symphony. Maybe it's good to just get rid of both of them and just play in both. It's okay. And it's not about your value by others. It's your value for yourself. The person who plays in the subway may be a lot happier than the person who plays in the symphony. And yet the person who plays in the symphony is getting paid more. Is that your measure of happiness? How much you're getting paid for what you love to do? I know when I get to do what I love to do, I don't get paid much at all. Here I am on Wisdom doing this for free because I love to do it. And yeah, okay, I want to sell my Dow and stuff like that, but might not be in the right venue, but in getting in the quote unquote right venue, might be a bunch of stuff I don't want to do. So I get to be who I am without putting a label on it. Vacant as someone staring off into space, dull as a man with nothing to boast about. So these are the six things, right? Careful, observant, courteous, unpretentious, vacant, and dull are the way that the masters appeared. But their ability to comprehend what they were doing is deeper. And can you be still, adding nothing until mud settles? And it gives you the opportunity to see clearly. Can you be still until, on its own accord, the next action presents itself to you? The master has no need for herself. She doesn't seek or expect attention. Not needing to appease herself, she has no requests. She has no requests of those around her. She is present with herself. Graciela is going to join me. Thank you, Felicia, for bringing up number 15. I appreciate it. And we'll see what... Graciela,
Good afternoon.
your icon is beautiful. Look at you.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my super short hair that'll grow eventually. So yeah,
I'm
I appreciate.
like, and I didn't even recognize the short hair, but like that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the thing that changed. I
Oh,
was like, yeah, it
thank
looks
you.
so. And always been a fan of short hair. And so I didn't
Mm,
notice, but that under the
oh.
influence, as I am.
Well, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
So I arrived a little late. I don't know what numbers have been discussed,
Yeah,
but
we did 37 and 15. Marcy came
oh,
up
so you just got
and
here.
did 37, and Felicia chose 15. And yeah, I haven't been on too long. I don't think. I don't
Oh,
remember
cool.
when I started. I think maybe, yeah, a little over an hour. It looks like. I
Mm,
can't believe that, but I thought I started a
wow.
little after 10.
Mm. So I don't know how long I'll have, because Elijah is
I
here,
know.
but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
yeah.
like to pick number 29 because it's today.
Okay, I read this the other day, and this is a really nice one. I like this one. This is
Is
about
this your translation?
this is my translation. We can
Okay,
always
got
kind of dip into another one, but this is I do like this one. Um,
it.
and it is entitled "Make the World a Better You."
Mm.
Do you want to make the world a better place? How arrogant you might be. The world, like you, is sacred and cannot be improved. A force of will would ruin it. If it had a guide, it would be misled. There are times for all things, even this, whatever it happens to be. The master allows all things to be as they are. She doesn't want to control them. She simply lets them do what they do. She also does what she does, staying connected to Tao.
Oh my gosh, yes, I remember. I was there when you read it. Oh my gosh, as soon as you started, I guess I missed when they asked for the number and I have no idea who it was, but um yes, I've heard this before, but listen to how interesting it is that I'm just posting a meditation about how what's today, Wednesday?
Yes.
Tomorrow tomorrow the astrology is kind of like inviting us to just go with the flow instead of against it, and I know you and I have discussed this so many times.
Mm.
But this week the topic is, ever watched The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Years ago, I think I've only seen it once.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so it's when the big alien, I guess that's what he is, he says resistance is useless. That's what this week is about. I just posted about that. And I love number 29. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead. Please
Absolutely.
continue.
Yeah. As you know, like, again, this one starts in this really great place. I think, do you want to make the world a better place? How arrogant you must be. This
Right.
idea of, like, we want to help people, we want to go out, we want to make the world a better place, we want to do these things, but it's so important to recognize that there is, even when, like, I mean, I feel this way sometimes. It's just like, oh, I can do better or whatever. It's like, no, that is that is a space of arrogance. And there is, like, when I want to help somebody or whatever, when it's just like, it's like, oh, I have to recognize that, like, even though they're asking for help and all of this stuff, making that assumption is not where I want to exist. I want to be able to step back and be like, you are looking to be guided or something, but I am not here to guide you. I am here to uh, inspire you to guide yourself.
Mhm.
you know
Mhm.
and when I get my ego kind of tapped into, this is the answer, I know that I'm not being the best me that I can be. I'm being a me that is identifying as something else. And we have talked about identity a lot today, and so that's kind of come up.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, I love it. Um, Thank you for sharing. It's a great reminder, and I'm flowing with Elijah today. He got sick last night, and spent most of the night awake, staring at the ceiling next to me.
Oh.
Um, and I was awake as well. And then this morning he kind of napped between 7 and 9, and he just ate for the first time since yesterday around this time, so I'm flowing with him. He doesn't have a fever or any other symptoms. So I'm just chilling and flowing with him. But thank you, Martin John.
Absolutely, it's
Oh, my
always
ears are
wonderful
ringing
to.
now.
What's that?
My ears are ringing.
Uh-oh, people are talking about you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's other ways to interpret that though.
Yeah, no, I know.
Like what if there's a little fairy ringing a bell in my ear right now?
Yeah. No, I don't. It's That's just like, yeah, that old, that's what people used to tell me when I was a
I
kid.
know.
But this one continues, and it's beautiful. The world, like you, is sacred and cannot be improved. And I think a lot of times when we hear that, we're like, but I can be improved. And it's like, well, at this moment, although you are changing, this moment you are perfect. And you're not, you can't be improved in this moment. In the next moment, when you've changed, you'll still be perfect. You'll be perfect in a new way. And
Hmm.
we could look at that as an improvement from where you were in the last moment, but that's a measuring device. And there's no need to measure because the past doesn't exist anymore. So we're
Hmm.
here and we're perfect as we are.
Yes. So beautiful. Oh my
Mm.
goodness. Well, thank you, Martin John. I'm gonna go ahead and
Absolutely.
step
Yeah.
down and
You
go
you
check
step
on him.
down. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and finish talking
We'll
about
be in
this. And
touch. Have a great
yeah,
day.
you as well. Love your hair.
Bye. Thank you. Love.
Bye bye. Um so this one continues and says, a force of will would ruin it, and if it had a guide, it would be misled. I talk to a lot of people often about that idea of, like, they took someone else's advice and they feel like they they were taken off course or whatever. Well, the fact that they took the advice means that they're exactly on course. They just have to readjust from what they expected or whatever. There are times for all things, even this, whatever it happens to be. The master allows all things to be as they are. She doesn't want to control them. She simply wants to let them do what they do. She also does what she does, staying connected to Tao. Julie's coming up.
Hello,
Hey, Julie, how are you?
I'm all
How's it
right.
going? Good.
I s-
You're calm
okay.
today.
I am. I'm calm because I've spent a whole day doing nothing in particular.
That's
But
beautiful.
I just wanted to tell you something, Martin John. We had a conversation. I think it was yesterday,
Yeah.
and we were talking about. Actually, it might have been the day before. We were talking about cats. Can you remember the conversation about a cat just sits in the sun
Yeah.
and appreciates the moment? Well, I woke up this morning and it was raining, and I thought, it's raining. And then the cat that I'm being nanny to at the moment come and sat on my lap and curled itself round. And this cat doesn't normally sit on laps, it's not a lap cat,
Okay.
usually quite independent. But it chose this morning to sit on my lap and just curl round, and it was really enjoying that warmth from my lap and the space, and it obviously felt really safe because it rolled over so its feet were lying over my forearm and its legs were going round and its belly was open, completely open. And
Mm.
I looked at that cat and it reminded me of you and
Oh.
that beautiful conversation we had where the cat just is being a cat.
Yeah.
Doesn't think about anything really. That beautiful space that I try so hard to get to, but with all the effort that I make, I'm never going to get there. But I did this morning with the cat.
Yeah.
Did
And
this
that's, yeah.
morning.
You know,
The cat's my
I
guru.
yeah, absolutely. There is like the Tao of cats. I think that exists out there. But like our frontal lobe, and I've probably expressed this to you. I look at our frontal lobe like a teenage boy. It's if we don't listen to it, it becomes louder.
Yes.
And and that's although I believe as we entered, the age of Aquarius and all of this stuff, we are stepping away from that. We're stepping away from the frontal lobe leading the charge. But the frontal lobe is so adept at doing it, at keeping, staying occupied, being
Interrupting.
being entertained, interrupting. Yep, all of those things. Like as soon as it's bored, boom, it's got something to fill it with. Is it, and and there is more beyond the frontal lobe, and I've talked about the spirit brain, which is our first non-physical brain. And this is just a theory, like it makes sense to me. It is one that, will connect us further. It is one that is feminine. It is one that is yielding. It is one that will require less time to mature. But we're in a space of like the frontal lobe getting put on a back burner. And so it's evolving. Like between 17 and 21, you do a lot of growing.
Yeah.
You learn stillness, and that's kind of what's happening with the frontal lobe as an item that is held by billions of people, right? Like it is doing a singular sort of evolution, slowly kind of rolling through the population, inspiring people to continue to grow.
I've got a question for you.
Shoot.
With that in mind, with that growth in mind between those ages of, say, 17 and 21, what happens when your experience is so busy? So really incredibly busy and fraught that you don't, that bit gets kind of, that may be weird. And this is how I view my experience, is all of this growth has been stunted through manic experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That it's only
So
when I
that is so
found,
that's what I would refer to as arrested development.
yes, yes. And with that in mind, is that something that you just recognize as it is? Or
What
is
do you
it
mean?
something, so I would say that in my experiences in growth of like my spiritual self or the me that I've
Yeah.
suddenly acquired sometime last year when I was sitting on my bed, like, oh, look, there's me. That lateness of it, it's kind of shocking that now all of the things that I'm learning about and discovering are things that everyone everywhere else seems to me to already know. It's like I'm late to the party, kind of. That kind of feeling. Very strange.
Well, I think that you can take solace in the idea that the people you've surrounded yourself with are already here. So that means that you have been doing the work of preparing for this, and all of a sudden it's it's happening, and you're surrounded by people who get it.
Yeah,
Like you're not, like when I was, and even still, like when I was early in my journey, nobody got this. And even now, where I am in my journey, a lot of people still don't get.
yeah.
And and no offense to anybody that's kind of, late to the party or whatever it is, like they don't get it, but they're really trying to, but they're trying to very often in the cognitive space.
Yeah.
And I was doing that 20 years ago, like and so like there's a slow sort of journey, and it's not that you're late. You're The fact that you're surrounded by people that get it, like those people might just be louder, because they're just getting it too, but they want to be seen as getting it,
Yeah, yeah,
and
okay,
they
yeah.
want a guy, like I know someone who doesn't get it at all and is out there, on social media with hundreds of thousands of people following them, and they don't get it, and it's like, well, they're selling something, and that's good for them.
Yeah.
But that's a big deal, like, what happened with you younger, and don't forget, this is the spirit brain waking up.
Yeah.
So all of the people that currently don't get it will eventually get it. And it's not like you have information that others don't. That's not the point. The
Yeah.
point is that you have access to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the point. As we're talking about this, I I don't know if you have a number, but I'd like to give you 16.
Yeah. Do.
Um,
Thank you.
and I want to recognize that what you're doing, like by thinking about this, is filling your mind with doubt.
Yes.
So let's look at number 16, which is entitled Stillness and Integration.
Okay.
Being empty of mind is of utmost importance and is to be guarded with fervor. We have all seen states of action arise, and always beyond it returns stillness. When any state of action is complete, it naturally returns to stillness. This allows integration of what arose from action, which is the natural cycle of maturation. If stillness and integration cannot be achieved, constant action will lead to anxiety and wild movements. Yield to stillness. Yielding to stillness makes one impartial, and all particular things fall away. When it is time to die, one can be impartial to that as well.
As you were as you were reading that, the thing that the visual that came to mind, because you know that I work quite well with visuals
Mm-hmm.
easily absorbed by me, and my visual was of the brain wave, the curve, and
Yeah.
just at the top of the curve of the wave is that moment of stillness. The action is the wave, so you start at the top and you go down and you're tapering in and you get to the bottom, and then you have the moment of stillness before the curve rises.
Yep.
That is what allows the whole wave to occur in the first place.
That's right.
It's those moments. So yeah, that's really, really something.
And we could break your life down daily, and we can talk about individual points of stillness and motion. Your awake time, your sleep time, your awake time, your sleep time. We could also look at it as breaking your day up into multiple points of action and stillness. And then we can break your year up into points of action and stillness. But we can also look at, so like, when you watch like a TV series or something, there are multiple storylines that happen in every episode. And then there are chunks of storyline that happen every season. And then there is the grand storyline that happens over the course of the entire series. And so all of these could be points of action and stillness, where right now, you might be coming out of a state of stillness in your life to start a new point. And as you start that, it is being compared to the last point of action, which was so external. Now there is a point of action which is internal, but it is uncomfortable. So you start looking for validation, and you start looking for things, but so much of your action has put you in a position, in a place where you are surrounded by people who are here to not only be your peer, but also kind of lead the way.
Yeah,
But you're not late to the party. You know what I mean? Like you're you're introducing something new
yeah,
to it all. nobody's late. You arrive exactly when you need to arrive, and in the right
Yeah.
time with the right questions. And don't be afraid of the idea of like, well, if everybody's doing this, why do it at all?
Yeah, that's another one. That's another one that appears in my peripherals from
Yeah,
time to time, yes.
yeah. That's a that's a fine thought, right? But um, and you can step away from doing this work, whatever this work happens to be, um, because it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if you do it or not.
Yeah.
Um, it may to you, and it may be something that like and I have to remember that all the time too, because maybe it doesn't matter that I do this work. I love doing the Tao, so I come up and I do it.
Yeah,
And there's
that's,
no
yeah, it's a thing of enjoyment as well for
yeah,
myself, yeah.
right. And that's where it all is, right? It's all in this place of being. It's all in this place of being still and allowing this, in the last one with Felicia, I think it chose number 15. And when we were talking about, can you be still until the mud settles? All of these questions are mud.
Yes, they are.
It's not you. That's you looking outside and identifying somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
But, like, and I know you're going to drop off soon, but this, and you can come back up if needed. Um, without, where does it say this, right? Constant action. So without stillness, constant action will lead to anxiety and wild movements. Like all those questions, all those things that are attached with that anxiety, all of that stuff is tied up in that anxiety and those wild movements. Those wild movements are actions that we take to double down on or to prove that we have this identity that we are. That like the mud isn't settled, and yet we're moving about, making wild movements, trying to find our way, and yet we're just making it worse. We're getting even more lost.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, as soon as you start reaching out to the external, I suppose, is when the flow's not so good. It's almost like saying, when you're not taking any actions at all, you seem to just be going with a beautiful flow to a place that you're going to go anyway.
That's right.
When you start flailing about, it's when you start to think, I can't float in this water. I'm sinking. I'm going to have to tread water. I'm going to have to tread water. And you start treading water until you get tired. You get really tired, and then you start to sink. And then eventually you're not going with the flow anymore. And
Yeah.
that's just, that's
And
just how I'm envisioning it.
eventually,
Yeah.
this is one of the great things about Tao. Tao doesn't care if you flail. You flail and flail and flail until you get tired.
Yeah.
And then wherever you're at, you will surrender to your fate. And it might have to take you back up a bunch of river that you went down because you were flailing, but you'll get to the place that you were going anyway.
Yep.
As soon as, like, once we identify as any of it, right? Like we try to uphold that identity, try and hold on to that identity, because that identity is who we are. And then Tao's like, well, actually,
That's
you're
who you
just
think
Tao.
you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's who you
Your
think you
ego,
are.
right? Your ego is closing off I've been saying recently, one of the things I've been saying is wanting anything keeps you from being everything.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Like, your want of something is holding you back from being all that you are, because you have closed off so much just for this one outcome.
Yep.
And it's got nothing to do with you.
I love that the best.
Yeah. It has
I remind
no.
myself that, yeah, every day.
Yeah.
Every day. It's not my
Yeah.
show. Okay?
That's right. That's right.
But
You know,
yeah,
I've talked about that idea of, independence and stuff. And I'm like, when a cell wants to be independent and, like, wants to separate itself, it wants to stand out, and it starts replicating faster and doing all these things that cells do in its own way. Like, we call that cancer and cut it out, but we want to be independent people. We want to be individual, separate from everything. Like, individual means not divisible but separate, right? Like, so you're part of everything. So I don't like using that word, but, like, we all want to be ourselves, but it's like, we're not. We're not ourselves. We are part of a whole,
yeah.
and we need to be able to recognize that we're part of a whole.
Well, oh, yeah, that's the thing, is it's wanting to be that part of the whole and to enjoy the fact that you are an element. It's like I've said before, it's like I always think that everything, everywhere, at every time is a tapestry, and I'm a thread in that. I'm very lucky. I'm a thread in that tapestry, so I am totally attached to everything. I am part of the whole.
Yeah.
I couldn't I couldn't exist really to any detriment at all, for any good really, without the rest of the tapestry. I
Yeah.
can't create a pattern. I can't create anything without being part of the whole, and the whole creates me at the same
Yeah.
time. So that's nice.
And, like,
That's a pleasant thing to think about for me.
and when we think about this last year of yours, it was really
Excuse me.
funny. I was going through and pulling out some audio from Dow episodes, because I'm gonna, like, I'm still working on this app and stuff, and I
Yeah,
listened to our conversation the day before our workshop together.
yeah,
And it was really interesting because, like, you were such a different person then. Like, you sounded different. You
yes,
spoke different. It was
yes,
different. Like, you were different. And it was just good to see that. Not that there's a judgment on it or anything like that, but there's like, oh, wow, you were different. And
nice,
like, you talk about this idea of this last year, and you're late to the party, all of this other stuff, whatever. And I look at that and I'm like, well, you know, when you were younger, you had so much arrested development,
yeah,
but then to be here, like, you got to think that your daughter is nowhere near where you currently are in
no,
terms of understanding oneself.
sorry,
No, quite all right. And so, pardon me. And so, there is going to be a time when those people around you that haven't necessarily understood some of the things that you understand now are going to reach this point where you are. Are they going to be late to the party?
interesting.
Because I'm sure Like you're on this app and maybe you've gone to where was it, Cornwall, is that where it was, like where
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
people are spiritual and all that kind of stuff, and so you engage in these conversations where you're running into people left and right. Why do you think that is all of a sudden? Is it because all of a sudden everybody knows this, or is it because you do?
Nice. Yes. Very good. Yeah, I like that.
Right, because like everybody hasn't changed, but the people that you are surrounded by has.
It reminds me of when you have a foot complaint, say, you've hurt your foot,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going off and you're sitting in a cafe or you're walking around the town with your little boot on, and suddenly you start to see other people with these boots on or the crutches, or that happens, I think. You suddenly, because your focus is there, you suddenly recognize it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, or another example would be you find out that you're pregnant and you go into town and you're just having a coffee and all you see everywhere is prams and pushchairs and babies.
Yeah. When I got diagnosed
That's,
with MS
yeah.
and recovered from
Sorry.
my being bedridden from my MS, everybody that had a limp, everybody that walked with any sort of lilt, I noticed.
Yeah.
And it was just I know, I was just like, wow, they've been all around me this whole time. And
Yes.
and it's not until I focus on mine that I see them. And I was like, I don't want to. It's not that I don't want to see this. I don't want to focus on my disability to the degree that it's popping up around me.
Yeah.
I want to just be present. And like, if I notice it, I notice it. If I don't, I don't. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like, we're creating this, right? We're creating what it is we're focusing on.
Yes. Yes.
You know.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say that it's just that very thing that you've just said there is the noticing of it.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest gift I ever was given, was
Yeah.
noticing. That was it. Once I had that a very kind friend gave me one day a year ago, and just that, and I hadn't even, it not even crossed my mind. Everything that was very, very external for me all of the time, and I was so close to it. I was attached to everything in
Mm-hmm.
a way that it affected me. It affected me. It affected me, and I gave back, gave back, gave back. There was no gap, no space, no
Right.
space. But then
And
once I,
when I
yeah,
like that you said that there's no space, because there are verses of the Tao which state that the Tao can enter where there is no space.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, and that's the gift of it. It is once I'd done the notice, once I'd realised that I could notice,
Right.
and then just let go of it again.
Yeah.
Notice, let go. Notice, without that having to interact, without that having to fill the space myself. That was the biggest gift.
Yeah.
So those spaces are great.
Right. And that's that stillness.
Yeah,
Right. Because when you can be still, you can integrate what happened. Because the thing is so much action. If action followed by action, followed by action, followed by action, you don't ever get to integrate any of it, and you don't actually mature. As it says here, when any state of action is complete, it naturally returns to stillness. Naturally. Now, you can unnaturally just fill yourself with something new, as quickly as you can. Maybe it'll be the stillness of going to bed, or the stillness of a weekend or a vacation, but all of those are active as well
yeah,
for some people. This allows integration of what arose from action when you can be still. which is the natural cycle of maturation, right? That's the natural cycle of becoming a mature person, is that you are able to integrate through stillness what your action taught you.
Hmm, I like that.
Yeah.
This thing that I'm doing that you know lots about, because I tell you all the time, that appears to me that it's very, as I'm going through this course, I see people flying through this course,
Yeah.
flying through the stages, doing all of the actions and the practicals online with the tutors and everything. It all seems to be so fast, and yet I seem to be taking it a lot slower. But then I'm almost taking it slower, sitting with it, living it, and then having that space of quiet, and then going back to it again. I've done the I've absorbed that. Now I can go back to it again and learn the next bit. Do you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, well, am I taking this too slow? I don't think I am.
Yeah.
I
You
think
know,
it's doing it the right time, the right place, because it is what it is, how it is. That's it. It will go the way it wants to go. I'm not going to worry about it. But yeah,
yeah, you know,
it's
and that's the, you know, that's such an important thing to understand. Like, one, like, you don't know where they're coming from, but
absolutely.
one thing we have to, like, I'm going to bring this back to you and the work that we've done together. Like, um when you have that experience, you look outside of yourself and you say they are moving quickly.
Yes.
Well, that is the story. The reality is I'm having an experience that I might be moving slow,
Yes.
right? So now, we, instead of looking at it as you are the victim of, or that they are doing something and you're being left behind, because these are the same things, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody's,
Yeah.
right, this is all the same sort of stuff. And being left behind is kind of what your mom did to you, right? So here it is, we are experiencing this once again.
But I'm
Like,
okay with it this time.
right, you're okay with it, so we're experiencing it from a new place,
Yes.
but recognizing that this is still the same experience is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
And then becoming aware of that, becoming aware of, oh, this still has to do with me being left behind. This still has to do with um what's going on. I'm trying to, I can't get you out of, you're gonna, like, my timer is weird, and your picture went away, so I can't exit you. um but your time is about to run out. 3, 2, 1, and if you want to come back up, you can now. So recognizing that this is a, that there is another layer to your being left behind. There is another layer to this argument. Maybe it's not about to be left behind, but it is, there is another layer to this somewhere. And then,
Yeah.
because there's another layer, you get to continue doing the work. Now, there's
Yeah.
never going to be a place where you are not doing the work. So
Yeah.
every day the work needs to be done. Now, you can look at that and then question yourself, and is this about belonging, is this about this or that or whatever? It doesn't fucking matter. But what does matter is that you recognize that your experience, the experience that you're having, is different when you point at yourself, this is the experience I'm having, versus you point at them and say, this is what they're doing. And there's a different way of looking at it, right? My experience is that they're doing this, and my experience, maybe, does it upset me, does it not, does it make me question myself, does it do all these things, what is it doing? Just, and just kind of sit in that for a little bit, and then let it go and do what you're going to do. You know, because all it is about like sitting in that awareness, sitting in that
Yeah,
space of awareness and allowing yourself to be still with it and to be to embrace it as it needs to be.
yeah. I would absolutely bang on agree with that.
Yeah.
That's the thing that was the little gift, you see. The little gift was that I could quite happily sit with it, notice it, let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that itself has been a cure for many things. It's been a
Right.
cure for
Yeah.
the feeling of missing out, the feeling of not being good enough to be in the race,
That's right.
for a bit abandonment,
Hmm.
fear of abandonment, all of those things very, very early on that we discussed a long time
Right.
ago, they're all there in this element.
Yeah.
And because I've been given this lovely gift of observation and sitting with, I can just notice it
Yeah. And
and then let it go. Yeah.
there is nobody else, right?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
having this experience, and that's it. And you know, they might be moving quickly, and sure, we can come up with story,
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Why
says
not?
they're just looking to they're just looking at a destination, and I'm looking at something deeper, and I'm better, and I'm this, and you know, like that's what we like to do.
Yeah,
And
we
that's
do.
all fine, we can do that. There's nothing, you know, like intrinsically wrong with being like egotistical and like saying that we're doing the right thing and we're doing it the right way and all of these things. But really what the place where we could learn the most is in the place of understanding that this is our experience.
Yeah.
I'm having an experience where other people are doing this. And then I have judgment about that. And so I'm making up story.
Yep.
Interesting. Let me look at that. Let me just sit
Yeah,
with that.
absolutely.
You know, and that's
Oh, that's
cool.
great.
Right?
Yeah.
There's nothing like this is just life. It's not like it's like a big deal. Like if you waste a couple days or if you fucking like waste 50 years, like that's okay. It's yours. You know, like so you can sit in the victim place, or you can just be like, this is my experience. There are no other people. And everything I look at deserves like love. And so how can I be in this space and love this place and really respect those other people, but not only respect those other people, but respect my own journey through it.
Yes. Yes. That's the one. That's the
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, that's so beautifully put. Hey, Martin John, you're just great. Sorry, I just had to pop that in there, but it's
Well,
you're
I received that.
describing my
Thank you.
whole process.
Yeah, but I think sitting with it is going to help you, you know, just kind of recognize it and just kind of recognize that it's not them
Yeah, it's
doing
joyful.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
It is your experience of
That's
this happening. Right.
absolutely. It's that noticing, and how I'm noticing, why I'm noticing, and that itself is an experience.
Right.
That's what's great about it. So I don't, whereas in previous times, a year ago, say, that would have really given me a rough old ride. That whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And now it's just wow. Everything for me these days seems to be really, oh, look at that. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And none of it is ever again me, poor me. And I
Yeah.
lived with me, poor me for so many years.
Yeah. Poor pitiful me syndrome. That's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. No, it's not. It's not. You know, like when you get out of it, you see how disgusting it actually is. It's just like,
Yeah,
oh
you
my
do,
god,
yeah.
I'm so embarrassed.
Oh, God, hide your face.
That's right. Oh, I can't believe that I was like that. You know.
Yeah.
Have you ever read any Ram Dass?
No,
No, I think
don't do enough reading.
you might. That's fine. You can like if you if not having like I didn't read Ram Dass until recently because Andy read Ram Dass, and I was like, oh, I love you. Let me read the things that you read.
Yes.
And I really don't like. He's fine. He's fine. He's like, he worked with Timothy Leary, and I read Timothy Leary years and years and years ago.
Mm.
But he does this thing. He talks about like living is living in this space and being like, oh, far out, look at that happen, just observe it, like far
Yeah.
out, look at that, you know and I really like that approach, and you mirrored that when you were just like, wow, interesting, like
Yeah.
it's the same sort of thing. So I just wanted to mention Ram Dass. If it's something that you end up kind of following, or even watching videos or whatever on YouTube, they have a lot of stuff on YouTube, like from
I'll have a
from
look.
him.
Just
Yeah, Ram
send me
Dass.
a little text with that so that I've
Yeah,
got
we'll do.
a reminder, because
Yeah.
yeah, things flow in and out very quickly around these parts.
Yes,
You know this.
there's a lot that flows, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you
All right.
so much for coming up and sharing with me.
Absolute pleasure. Always a pleasure. And you're there, and I'm like, yeah, let's do this today. Let's do
Yeah.
this for this moment. And I just wanted to mention again, when I was looking down at that cat, curled up, not a lap cat at all,
Mm.
curled up on the lap, being a cat, and I could just drop off all thoughts, even to the cat,
Yeah.
and just be for a minute, and it was fantastic. And then you
Yeah.
popped
It's
in,
it's
Martin John. Oh, hello,
oh,
Martin
there he
John.
is.
There he
Yeah, no,
is.
I'm grateful for that. Thank you so much for
So,
saying.
pleasure. Take care, and we'll speak soon.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye. All right, we're going to bring up Dr. Rao and then close out, because I think I have a duck ready to get pulled from the oven. Dr. Rao,
Hi, Martin.
how are you?
I'm great.
Good. I am glad to hear that.
Yeah,
I figured you might have something to say about what I was talking with Julie about.
yeah, related to what I'm doing currently also.
Oh,
But
yeah, please.
see, you're talking about silence and then renewing yourself and coming back and all that. That's
Mm-hmm.
spot on, because people listen things, but then they don't let that come into their, you know, practice, or or just watching what is happening with their life and then applying the wisdom.
Right.
Not that you have to follow like a rule or something, but just so people talk a lot, right?
Yes, they do.
And then all that is really hogwash if you
Yeah.
don't apply it in your mind. For me, um, aren't we judging them? No, no. What we are saying is, if you really want to see the transformation, if you want to really enjoy that spiritual bliss and ananda, the peace, I mean, that's very valuable, right? So, without getting into any of these addictions, without any hang ups or ego trip or anything like that, will be peaceful. Your peace itself, you know,
Yes.
your happiness itself. So these things have a lot of value. Just because you're scientist, scientifically thinking, doesn't mean you are not a human being going through these things, right? He will also
Yep.
have worries, fears, and concerns, and all of that. But there are ways that were defined for centuries of how to transcend that. Modern times, especially the way I see wisdomers, they call themselves here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm being mean now, but
Yep. 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 Yep.
deliberately, because I'm kind of see that suffering going on, but meanwhile they're just getting occupied with something and all, not really uh, seeing that there are solutions. Maybe they provided thousands of years ago, doesn't mean they're wrong. When they will become wrong is if you just imitate them, or if you just take them for face value.
Right.
What is invited is, come on, study them,
Right.
open your mind, and then you will find out what is truth, what is not. You know, it's not that you have to follow them just because they said. It doesn't really matter to them whether you appreciate or not, you know, or you got a Nobel Prize or Oscar. Who cares? You know,
Exactly.
uh, what is it to you? How is you are transcending your mind? How is you are relating to other people? How much love you have in your heart? How much silence you are enjoying in life?
Yes.
One thing I kind of tell people, shouting from my house, "Hey, I'm blissful, I'm peaceful." That's
Yeah.
not really fake or anything. It is so. It's a subjective experience that is there. So I kind of put this room right. Calm your mind with Dr. Rao. Today I'm